Strap in, you little nerds, because the Pyramid Scheme Spreadsheet series is back. This time with a vengeance. I'm Canadian Kels, and I designed and built my own social media web crawler to collect the anonymous and publicly available information of over 5,000 people selling pyramid schemes across Canada. Why did I do that? Because I'm petty, that's why. And as someone who has seen firsthand the destruction and the cult-like behavior of many multi-level marketing companies, I'm on a mission to leave the world just a little bit better than when I found it. In this case, educating the masses on how predatory and risky MLMs are so that they don't get suckered in. It's a noble cause, and if along the way I get to laugh at the fact that the data backs up every single stereotype I've ever held about what kind of person sells Primerica, that's just a bonus, babe. Welcome to the new age. The spreadsheet is freaking huge this time. Throughout this series, I'm going to be showing you charts and trends of MLMs all across Canada. Everything from which MLMs are most prevalent in certain areas, to the age, gender, and even careers of the people selling them. We're going to do deep dives into MLMs one by one, interview people who have been in them and gotten out, and maybe even learn a thing or two. I'm also going to show you some really stupid shit every once in a while, because it's funny. For example, when I was charting just my home province, we found that Arbonne girlies used 39% more emojis than anybody else did. And also that a weirdly high amount of people selling MLMs had like an angry white ankle biter dog. We also found out that all the high school mean girls from my hometown were more likely to sell Herbalife and more likely to marry cops. They did not like me for that one. Alright, buckle up, because we're going to speed through this disclaimer. Every piece of information used in this series, now and forever, is and will always remain 100% anonymous and only ever be sourced from publicly available information. The data pulled here is completely visible to every single person on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and personal websites included but not limited to family blogs. I do not condone the harassment of any person, group, or corporate entity, and last but not least, if there is anyone on this spreadsheet who asks to be removed or blocks me on any platform through any of my socials, personal or public, they will be immediately removed and their data deleted forever. Don't you make me repeat that in the comments section. Let's go. Actually, hold on. No, one more thing. I get hundreds of comments a day and like dozens of emails from people asking to see the spreadsheet and like download it and do their own stuff with it. No, absolutely not. This is anonymous information. No, you don't get to play with it. You don't get to be a detective and try and figure out who people are based on the information in the spreadsheet. Absolutely not. I give you all the permission in the world to go off and do whatever you want with the people you know and the information you collect. I would urge you to be ethical and respectful if you do that with your own information. You do not get mine. Anonymity is king. I'm not doxing these people. Moving on. Let's talk numbers, specifically this number. N in statistics basically just refers to your sample size. It is the number of observations, or in this case, people in your dataset. So how many people are we tracking here? The answer is a whopping 5,289 currently. I found them by creating a fake online MLM persona and having my little spy network of followers email me links to MLM megagroups on Facebook. I'm in like 50, it's horrifying. The web crawler I built was something I did completely out of spite. I literally learned how to code just to build this thing. Basically, I set it going into a couple of different Facebook groups at a time, and it goes and siphons through the member list and excludes people based on location first, so it excludes anyone that's not based in Canada. It's also looking for a web of open and public socials for every single person it takes a look at. So if on their Facebook they have a link tree and that link tree links to every other social, they're probably on the list. Or if they're constantly linking their Insta, their Twitter, their website, something like that. It's looking for those connections where I can actually source the publicly available information from that I need. And I have to fine tune this a little bit, but it's also checking to see how much information is available per person. For example, if a person just joined an MLM and they only have like 3 or 4 posts related to it, I'm not going to be able to find much on them. This group contains people from all across Canada in every single province and territory. Previously, in the last iteration of the spreadsheet series, I was just charting people in my home province of Saskatchewan. After all the people that asked to be removed and blocked me, I think I ended up with somewhere around like 507 people near the end. And just as a heads up, they are not all back in the spreadsheet. I'll explain why. It wasn't any conscious decision to remove them, I just decided to start the spreadsheet completely new, because if I didn't, I was going to end up with a weirdly high number of people from Saskatchewan. Almost 100 of the entries on the original sheet were people that I had known and met in my personal life and gone seeking them out to check. It made sense for me to restart everything because the web crawler that I'm using may not have found them in the first place. So we restarted and we let my little web crawler, who has affectionately been named Beep Boop, sift through all of the member list. There was almost 250,000 people to get through, and it took like a week, and he is still chugging. Well, Kelsey, that doesn't sound very efficient. Give me a break, okay? I learned to code in like 3 days. Beep Boop did his thing, and we ended up with the 5,000 and some people we have on the sheet right now. Now, I also had to assign a certain amount of criteria to the people that would make it on the sheet. I already mentioned that if they didn't have enough information, they wouldn't qualify. But there were other parameters as well. Did it look like my little web crawler could possibly figure out the age of the person? Were there any mentions of birthdays? Did they have pronouns in their bio? Did it look like they were only posting pictures of their MLM products, or was there actual public information about their life? Usually there was, but I knew these were the kind of things I wanted to track. So I had to set my crawler up to exclude anyone who would just return error after error if I put them in the spreadsheet. All in all, I knew there were probably about 20 things I wanted to track, so I spent a long time setting up the code and then set Beep Boop off to exclude anyone who would come back with less than 10. He's very cool. He's slow as shit, but he's really cool. So let's get into it. I'm going to be showing you today which provinces and territories have the most MLM sellers, but before I do that, I need to show you the population breakdown because you need that for the full picture. There's a phrase we use when talking about populations called per capita, and my spreadsheet buddy Nick Powers knows this very well. Per capita is a Latin term that translates to mean by head, and is often used as kind of an apples to apples comparison between two places with different populations. You've most likely heard it used in nationwide or global economics to describe how certain metrics will apply to certain populations. Take a look at this. If I'm a market researcher who works for a big telecom company and I'm trying to figure out which phone university students like more, iPhone or Android, I might go and run studies at universities across the country. If we're talking about how many people at University of Toronto own an iPhone, we might come up with the number 30,000. And then let's pop over to my neck of the woods at University of Saskatchewan, where the number might be only 20,000. Well, clearly they like iPhones way more in Toronto, right? No. U of T has around 60,000 students, making their iPhone per capita about 50%, whereas U of S only has 25,000 students, making their iPhone per capita 80%. Despite having less total iPhones in Saskatoon, there's a larger percentage of university students preferring iPhone over Android, and that context is very important for me as a market researcher, or to someone who, say, might be stalking pyramid scheme sellers. This is Canada's population breakdown. Now, all of these numbers were taken from our most recent census, which was 2 years ago in 2021. Ontario contains the most people by a lot, followed by Quebec, BC, and Alberta. The rest of us are kind of insignificant in the grand scheme of things. In fact, we have such low populations in all three of our territories that you can't even really see them on this chart. Now, the reason seeing this chart laid out like this is important is so that you're prepared for Ontario to have by far the most MLM sellers. They may not have the most MLM sellers per capita, but a province with 14 million people is gonna have a lot more than one with only 40,000. Make sense? Great. I'm gonna keep the next sheet in exactly the same order so you can see where this theory fails to hold true. Ontario, yep. Quebec, lower. Alberta edging out BC even though they've got like 1 million less people. Saskatchewan slightly higher than Manitoba, and what the is going on with Nova Scotia? Are you guys okay over there? I mean, what? Does Betsy DeVos have her summer home on the Bay of Fundy? All right, one more chart here to show you the comparison between the population of each province versus the people who sell MLMs. For clarity, this chart is scaled into 40% just so we can see things a little bit better. The green bars reflect the percentage each province holds of Canada's total population. The blue bars represent each province's total percentage of all the people we're tracking. I specifically want you to take a close look at the ones where the blue bar is higher than the green bar, because any province who does that is getting roasted. First off, BC. I know exactly what this is. I don't have the data to back it up yet, but I know what this is. Once we get to the Who Married Cops episode, this is gonna be all our CMP wives. And you know what? I'm so confident in that if I'm wrong, I will issue a very embarrassing public video in support of Scott Moe. All right, listen, like 90% of you aren't gonna get that joke. Just know he's a politician here and that was funny. Next up, Alberta. Of course it's Alberta. Who else would this be? I also have a personal theory based on absolutely nothing, that when we start digging into careers, Alberta's gonna have the highest percentage of healthcare workers shilling MLMs. My favorite part is that despite having a lower population than BC, they have a lot more boss babies. Oh yeah, since we open up the spreadsheet to everyone, by the way, and there are actually some men on here this time, the boss babes have now been turned into boss babies. Gender neutral, attention starved, and still a giant pain in my ass. Manitoba, just a bit higher than the average. I can't even blame them, honestly. There is nothing else to do in Manitoba. The only things to do in Manitoba are drink, smoke, and bury your head in a snowbank when the Bombers lose. That joke's not gonna age well if we lose to them on Sunday. Listen, I just have a lot of passion for my province, okay? Oh, god damn it, Saskatchewan. I mean, I don't even, we suck. But let's go back to this chart because we need to talk about Nova Scotia. What the hell is going on here? I'm gonna tag this video as being located in Nova Scotia so I can hopefully get some answers. Do you guys have a prominent cult leader? Is it a recent phenomenon? Did a ship come over from England and just drop like hundreds of somebody's downline on your coast? I don't get it. Is it people from Massachusetts? What is your most popular MLM over there? I'm genuinely asking. I don't know. My little beep boop is like running off to find that information right now. Was anyone here when this was just like a hometown series and we constantly had this really weird outlier effect with Unique and I could never figure out what was going on? This is my new Unique. I'm gonna find out what the MLM conspiracy is in Nova Scotia. You know what? I'm gonna book a flight. $1,700. I'm so sure, bud. I'm gonna find out from here. All right, never mind. Let's get back to it. You remember how we were talking earlier about boss babies per capita? That's the number of each province's MLM sellers as it pertains to their entire population. So let's see who our worst offenders are. Coming in at number 5, Alberta. Could have told you that for free. Number 4, Saskatchewan. You do me so proud. Number 3, Nova Scotia. Not our highest one, weirdly. And this is why per capita doesn't always tell the full story, and sometimes we need additional context, because number 2 and number 1 are Northwest Territories and Yukon, respectively. These are both territories with a population of roughly 40,000 people each. And if you're stateside, for our purposes here, a territory is essentially the same thing as a province. Big areas. But if you only have 40,000 people and 20 of them are selling MLMs, that's going to be a much larger percentage than you're finding elsewhere. That's why the data presents like this. Alternatively, maybe this does actually tell a story with some truth to it. Northern living, which I consider myself to be, and I'm only really in the top half of my province, northern living is hard. There aren't a lot of opportunities for jobs or education, and the cost of living is astronomical. These are all factors that would contribute to someone being a lot more susceptible to falling for a scam that promises that they can just make money working from their phone. I'd like to know if this trend holds true the more we expand. This is why we need more data, especially from the Maritimes. I'm gonna figure out what the fuck is going on in Nova Scotia. Also, we have merch. We have really funny merch, and 20% of the proceeds are being donated to the Circle Project in Regina. It's an Indigenous nonprofit that runs some really great community programs, and our merch is awesome, honestly. I wouldn't want you to miss it. Next video is going to be exploring the gender makeup of all of our boss babies across Canada. I've already taken a look, and there are some really interesting things happening. And because I should be getting all the data pulled within the next few days, does anybody have any theories on the top MLM Canada-wide, or specifically which one you think is taking over your province? What are you seeing where you live? Let's test some theories, people. And to end this off on something hilarious, I have to share something from a follower. She grew up homeschooled in an Amway family, and she emailed me the social links for 19 of her family members. 7 of them are siblings, 12 of them are cousins, and girl, rest assured, they are all in it. But she says, if you add my family members to the sheet, can you read this on a video? Absolutely I can. Dear my estranged family, who felt that their loyalty to Amway was more important than keeping a relationship with me, I know you're hate watching right now. I also know that you have no way of getting off this spreadsheet because as you taught us in our Famway motto, keep your enemies close to you and don't consider anyone a lost cause. I hope that the data she finds backs up that Amway is full of intolerant, Bible-thumping, homeschooling, cult-worshipping, morally and financially bankrupt scam artists just like the lot of you. XOXO, the only person you ever gave up on. That right there, that's why you don't mess with a Canadian. This is called the Geneva Suggestion, baby. Thanks for watching. Follow along for part 2.